So welcome back to one more video session of microcontroller and embedded system. So in this session you will see task communication. So when you take a operating systems, so we know operating system made of kernel and many applications and all. So each applications like consists of many process. So in the operating system, one process needs to communicate with the other process. One process needs to communicate with the other process. So based on the type of interaction, it is classified into cooperating process and completing process. So there are two types of classification of the process or task based on the interaction. One is called as cooperating process, other one is called as a competing process. What is the difference between this cooperating and competing? See, like cooperating means it will exchange the data. For example, one process will give the data as input to the other process, that is called as cooperating. In competing process, it will not exchange the data, but it will share the resource. It will share the system resource. For example, one process is holding the resource like memory. So what it will do is it will share that resource with the other process, that is called as a competing process. So based on the communication between the interaction between the process or task are classified into cooperating and competing. Clear? Okay. Now, so as I said, cooperating process exchange the data, and it is used for the other purpose also. One is for data exchange, other one is data exchange, other one is for the communication. Like communication is like in the sense like for synchronization, like there should be synchronization between the process, otherwise it results in something, something called as a racing condition, or it results in deadlock, etc. So that is the main task of the cooperation process. Now the mechanism through which task communicates are called as inter-task communication process. So now you are going to study the various types of inter-process or task, IPC, inter-process communication or inter-task communications. You are going to study various this one. But what is IPC? IPC is the mechanism through which either task or process communicates inside the real-time operating system. Now, so first we will see what are the different ways. So different IPC mechanism are: one is shared memory, second one is message passing. One is shared memory, second one is message passing, third one is remote procedure call, RPC. It is RPC, not IPC. Remote procedure call. Third one is RPC. Yeah, three types are there. One is RPC, then message passing, and shared memory. By the three technique, one process will pass the information. Information may be pass the process will communicate with the other process either through shared memory or message passing or RPC. Three types of communications are there between the process. First we will see shared memory. What is a shared memory communication? In the diagram you can see here, process 1 is there, process 2 is there, and shared memory. What process 1 will do is process 1 will write the data to the shared memory, and process 2 will access the shared memory. This memory is shared within both process 1 and process 2. So this is called as a shared memory concept. In the shared memory, concepts are implemented by means of pipes and memory objects. So I repeat, IPC mechanisms are classified into: IPC means inter-process communication. How the one process will communicate with the other process, that is called as IPC. So in the IPC we have three techniques. One is called the shared memory. Second one is the message passing. Third one is remote RPC, remote procedure call. So in IPC, sorry, in shared memory, both process will share the memory. How it will share the memory? There are also different techniques. One is called pipes. Second one is called memory objects. First we will see pipes. What is a pipes? So you know, pipe is used to pass the water from one end to the other end. It is used for flow of water. Like so, here also same concept. A section of the shared memory used by the process for communication. I'm sorry. The section of the shared memory used by the process for the communication is called as a pipe. Clear? The process which creates the pipe is known as a pipe server, and the other end, the process which creates the process which connects to that one is called as a pipe client. So pipe is a section of the shared memory used by the both process. In the diagram you can see here there are two processes. One process is called a writer process. Other process is called a reader process. That means writer process acts like a server and reader process acts like a client. Writer process, what it will do? It will write into the pipe, and the reader process will read the data from the pipe. Depending on the communication, pipes are classified into unidirectional and bidirectional. Unidirectional means only one flow of information from from either left to right or right to left is possible at a time either from left to right or right to left. Both direction is not possible. For the both direction we need bidirectional pipes, because it is not like always only one process will write and one process will read. It is not like that. Other process also sometimes it may want to pass the signal to the process one. In the diagram example, for example, for the particular time this process is writing and this process is reading. Process 1 is writing, process 2 is reading. After some time, process 2 want to write and process 1 want to read. For that you need a bidirectional pipe. Unidirectional cannot be possible. So in that time, process 2 becomes writer and process 1 becomes a reader. So that is the difference between bidirectional and unidirectional. And pipe server, the process which creates the pipe is known as a pipe server. The process which connects to that server is called as a pipe client. Clear? I hope it is understood. So now we will move to the next one. In pipe there are two types. One is called anonymous pipes, other one is called named pipes. See, anonymous pipes are used for data transfer between the two processes which possess parent-child relationship, like a parent-child relationship. And it is normally used to transfer the information from one process to the other process which are residing in the same system. But named pipe, it is used for to transfer the information between the process in other cases and all. That is the difference between the anonymous pipes and named pipes. So in the pipe there are two types of pipes. One is anonymous pipes, other one is named pipes. Anonymous pipes are unnamed unidirectional pipes used for data transfer between two processes in such a situation where both processes should have that parent-child relationship. In named pipes it is not like that. It can exchange in the information in the both direction. So now student, the other technique, first technique is pipe. In the shared memory, first technique it is used by the IPC mechanism is pipe. Second technique is memory mapped object. What we are doing in the memory mapped object? So in the memory mapped object, what we are doing is what the process is doing is, or what the operating system is doing is, it will map the physical memory to the object, memory object. It will map the physical memory to the memory object, memory mapped object. Here you see we have two processes, process 1 and process 2 here in the diagram you can see, and this is the actual physical memory, and this memory is mapped. So in the process already object is created and that object is mapped to the actual physical memory. So you can see here that this object is mapped here, object is created in this process, and that is mapped to the actual physical memory. That is the one thing you need to understand here. So now we will move to this other section. Second classification of IPC is message passing. First classification was shared memory. Second classification was message passing. In message passing, like is an asynchronous or synchronous information exchange. We know what is asynchronous. We know what is synchronous. Synchronous means we use normally clock signal to synchronize between sender and receiver. Asynchronous, both sender and receiver use certain pattern to transmit a certain pattern, or it will follow certain protocol to transmit data from one end to the other end. So message passing system is asynchronous and synchronous in both way. For example, message passing, our like internet mail, like whatever Gmail or other mail you are using, it is a it works on message passing. It works on message passing. It is not work. It will not work on like shared memory concept. You know. So in the message passing, further classified as message queue, mailbox and signaling. Message queue, mailbox and signaling. So student, now we will see the next one is IPC. Next mechanism in IPC, that is message passing. As I said, message passing like it is a synchronous and asynchronous type. So example for message passing is another thing but our mail, internet mail. It works on message passing concept. So now you see here there are three techniques. One is message queue, mailbox and signaling. So now what is the difference between message queue, mailbox and signaling? So we will see first a message queue. So in the message queue, a queue is created here. You know about queue. Queue is created which is a type of first in and first out. You know what is a first in and first out. Message queue is created and the messages are stored in the queue. For example, in the process 1 and here process 1 and process 2, message queue is created. Process 1 will pass the message to the queue and it will be stored in first out order, and process 2 will access the message. So but for accessing and sending and accessing, here operating sending and accessing messages are sent and received through by means of send and receive primitives. So in the earlier cases it will directly write the, see in the earlier cases, let me take you to the earlier cases. So earlier cases, see here process in the shared memory, process will like process 1 will write and process 2 will read from the shared memory, but here it is not like that. Here it is like send and receive primitives are used. So normally it will make a call, primitives in the sense like I just want to tell you, it will make a call to the kernel, like to send the message or to receive the message. It will make a call to the kernel. That means it will run with the some this one authorization and protection. When something running inside the kernel, then it other than the user space, when something running inside the kernel space which needs some type of, which works with some type of protection, you know. Okay, so this is about the message queue. Third one is mailbox. It is a special implementation of the message queue, usually used for a one-way communication. Only single message is exchanged through the mailbox. In the diagram you can see task 1. Task 1 is mapped to the particular mailbox, and we have task 2, task 3, task 4. All these tasks will get the this one message from the mailbox. One task or process creates the mailbox, and other task process can subscribe to the mailbox for getting the message. Third method, here we have something called a signaling. Actually, signaling method is used for synchronization purpose. Rather than transmitting the data, it is used for synchronization purpose. You know, see, it is here itself they have mentioned signals don't carry any data and not queued. So messages are queued. We have seen that this one in the last slide. But signaling is totally different. Signal is used for synchronization, not for carrying the message. Clear? Yes. Now the third mechanism in IPC is called as remote procedure call. It is not IPC, it is RPC, remote procedure calls and sockets. So see, when you write a program and when you access this, when you call this certain function inside that program, then it is called as local procedure call. But when you access or when you call the procedure which is in the remote system or in other process, when you call the procedure from the other process or in the other system, then it is called as a remote procedure call. It is not a local procedure call, it is a remote procedure call. So RPC is also known as a remote invocation or remote method invocation, RMI. What it will do, it will call the remote procedure call is the inter-process communication mechanism used by the process to call the procedure of another process, either running in the same system or running in a different system. When it's running in the same system, then you can call it by local socket. When it is running in a different system, you can call it by something called as a remote socket. You will come to know that one. So here, depending on the depending on the CPU process containing the procedure which needs to be invoked remotely, known as server. The CPU or process which initiates RPC request is known as a client. So we know what is a server and what is a client. The server is the one which initiates the procedure and client is request for that procedure. Clear? Now in the diagram you can see here, we have two processes. One is running on the one CPU and one is running on the other CPU. Both processes are connected through by means of network. So this procedure, so here RPC calls the procedure on the other system by means of TCP/IP protocol or UDP protocol. Student, I think you know something about TCP/IP. You just studied in the basics of data communication. TCP/IP is a transmission control protocol or internet protocol. UDP is a datagram protocol. TCP/IP is a connection oriented protocol. UDP is a connectionless protocol. So we will study about this one in the next semester, that is in 5th semester in computer networking. So for timing, TCP is a connection oriented protocol. There is a logical connection between the one process to the other process. UDP is a connectionless. There won't be a logical connection between end-to-end connection between one process to other process. So for establishment of RPC, Microsoft has got their own interface definition language that is called as Microsoft Interface Definition Language, MIDL. So in the diagram you can see process 1 connects to the process 2 by means of something called a socket. What is a socket? Socket is a API, application program interface, which is made of IP address and this one port number. So the process on the one machine connects to the process on the other machine through IP address and through port number. So through IP address and through port number. Now here you can see what is a socket. Socket are used for RPC communication, remote procedure communication. Socket is a logical endpoint. For it is a two-way communication link between two applications. So there are two types of sockets. One is INET socket. Second one is Unix socket. So what is the INET socket? So when you are calling procedure on the different machine, then you need to go for INET socket. When you are calling procedure on the same machine, you can go for Unix socket. So when you are calling procedure for the different machines, you have to call INET socket. In the INET socket, we have two types, streamed socket and datagram socket. Streamed socket makes use of TCP protocol and datagram socket makes use of UDP protocol. Datagram socket makes use of UDP protocol. So the next concept is task synchronization. You student, you know, like normally systems are normally nowadays systems are multi-core systems, and all these multi-core systems are used in multi-programming or multitasking. That means it will execute the task simultaneously, task or process. Multi-programming means it will execute the task and process simultaneously. Because you know, if you take particular system, if you take the particular system, there is a multiple core inside the system. Each process can be executed by each core simultaneously. So, but when you executing certain task in the multitasking environment, there should be synchronization between the two tasks. When the multiple processes are running, there should be synchronization between the task. Otherwise, it results in unexpected things. Like if there is no synchronization between the task or the process, then this will lead to unexpected result. Unexpected result. We know what is the unexpected result, like deadlock, race condition, all these are the unexpected results, right? Okay. Now, the act of making process aware of the access of shared resource by each process to avoid conflicts is known as task process synchronization. Means you need to tell the process, different process, which resource is being shared, which resource is available, which resource is not available. These things to be informed to the other process regularly. So this process, this procedure is called as task or process synchronization. So what is a task or process synchronization? That is like you have to make aware of different types of running resource. Resource can be either input, output, or memory to the process. Like which process is holding which resource is free. All these things should be you need to inform the process. This is done by the procedure that is called as task process synchronization. Now, what is the use of task process synchronization? Task process synchronization avoid the conflicts in the resource access. You know, when the resource is when the different processes are trying to access the resource simultaneously, that will result in either racing condition or deadlock in multitasking environment. By synchronizing the process properly, you can avoid the conflicts. Second one is ensuring a proper sequence of the operation of the process. Like you can ensure proper sequence of different process execution. Then you can ensure proper communication between the different process, etc. So when any process access the resource, then there is some section called as critical section. Critical section is nothing but a piece of program. Any process wants to access the particular resource, it has to access first the critical section. When it accesses the critical section, that process will get blocked. That process will get blocked means that process will not be able to access by the other process. That is called as a critical section. Now here you can see, you will see some of the issues related to the if you don't go for proper task communication or synchronization. First one is the racing condition. So we will try to see the racing condition with the help of following piece of code. So you see here, student, there is a small code here. Like you see, there is one array of array name buffer of character type, and one is counter. Counter is initialized with 0. Counter of type int. There is array. In that array, we have stored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Since the array is of a character type, ASCII value will be treated, rather than it will not take it as like integer value, it will take it as a ASCII value. The ASCII value of 1 is something like 49, I don't remember exactly. It will take in that way. It will not take like 1, 2, 3, 4, because it is like it is stored in the character form, not stored in the integer format. Clear? Now we will go to the other. We will see the this process A here. Process A of type void and argument. It will not return anything, and it will not take any argument. So what is there inside the process A? Int I like initialize a variable I of type int, and there is a for loop for the counter I is equal to 0 and I is less than 5. Increment I. If buffer I is equal to greater than 0, then counter you increment the counter. You increment the counter variable. You know what is a counter variable. You initialize the counter variable to 0. If the particular character value is greater than 0, so that is buffer this one high is equal to greater than 0, then you will increment the counter. Otherwise counter will not be increment, and this will repeat for I is equal to 0 to I is equal to 5. For example, when I is equal to 0, buffer this will access the first element of the array buffer. So what is the first element of the array buffer? First element of the array buffer is 1 itself. The value of 1 is nothing but character like the ASCII value of 1 is 49. It is greater than 0, which is greater than 0. Automatically it will increase the counter plus plus. So we have now second procedure. What is the second procedure? Second procedure is for I is equal to for j is equal to, here we have taken one more variable j. For j is equal to 5, j is less than 10, j plus plus. So the first process will start from I is equal to 5. So let me take you to the first process. Yeah, I is equal to 0 to I is equal to 5. Second process will start from j is equal to 5 to j is equal to less than 10. Similarly, here also it will do the same thing. But now the question is, if these two processes run sequentially, one after the other, for example, process A will run first and it will complete its task, then it will then next process B will run. That time there won't be any issue. But it is not so, because in multitasking system both processes will run simultaneously. That leads to some problem. What is that exactly? We'll see now here, student. What is that exactly? We'll see here. So you see this code here, this code. So this is the main function of the program. Here two threads are written. So we will not discuss how to create the thread, because it is not there in your syllabus. I think you will study that in operating system subject. So here it is not there in your syllabus. Just see create thread. It will take some this one parameters here. It is shown here. So two threads are created, and after that we are calling one function, sleep function. It will sleep for a certain while time. Then after that it will return. Now what is the problem exactly? The problem is you see this process when it run the process A, we have counter plus plus. We have this statement counter it will increment the counter variable. After the each iteration it will increment the counter variable. This is a very simple statement here, but when it is implemented in a low level language or assembly level language, you see here when it is implemented finally it will be implemented in assembly language. That time it looks like this counter plus plus statement, post increment of the counter will looks like this. For example, see that single statement looks like this. Looks like means it will be implemented like this. So here you see we have the value will be loaded from the for this one counter plus plus. The value will be loaded from the memory. This is the memory pointer to extended accumulator. Don't get confused. The value will be loaded to the extended accumulator. After that, extended accumulator is incremented by 1. After that, same value will be stored in the whatever value in the extended accumulator will be stored in the memory. So counter plus plus is a single statement in a high level language. Same thing is implemented in the low level language like this. Clear? Like this. Now you see we have two process A, process B. Let me zoom this one for the explanation purpose. Let me zoom this one. So you see first let us think process A is executing. So when the process A is executing, first what it will do is it will load the content from the memory to the extended accumulator. After that you think, just assume process A will switch over to process B because of some reason. Process A will get switch over to process B because of multitasking. When in the process B it will execute this statement, like process B it will execute once again this statement, and after some time it will return back to process A. When it return back to process A, whatever statement here you see, add ex1, this is not with respect to this context, this is with respect to different context. This is with respect to process context. Whatever this statement it will execute, this is with respect to process context, process B context, not with respect to process A context. What process A wants this has to be executed with respect to process A context. This is the some problem that is called as racing. Racing means both processes are running to complete and ultimately results in wrong output. That is called as racing. I hope you understood. For the better understanding, I will show you one more diagram here. Yeah, this diagram. Let me switch on this diagram. Yeah, here you see initially process A is there and process B is there. Initially from the memory when it executes, so let me zoom this one. So you see when it executes this statement, 4 is assigned to extended accumulator. 4 is assigned to extended accumulator. When the process makes switch over, it will come here and it will wait. That time when it executes this statement, 9 is assigned. After that it will increment the accumulator. That time it becomes 10 and it will load that 10 to the memory. Now when it returns back to process A, here it will execute the second statement, that is it will increment the accumulator. That time what it will do is accumulator content is incremented by 1, that is 10 plus 1. It is not 4 plus 1, it is 10 plus 1. That means we are getting wrong result here. Here actually what we want 5, but here we are getting 11. So this is called as a racing condition. I hope you understood this one. So I hope you understood this one. Second one is deadlock. First one is racing. So what is a deadlock? Deadlock is the condition in which process is waiting for the resource as held by the another process, which is waiting for the resource held by the first process. Hence, none of the process will be able to complete the job. So finally it results in a deadlock. You can see here process A and process B. Process A holds the resource X and it will wait for the resource Y. Process B wants resource X and holds the resource Y. Both process cannot complete the task because it is holding one resource and wait for the other resource. So that's why both process cannot complete the task and ultimately it results in a deadlock. So what are the conditions favoring deadlock? There are 4 conditions favor deadlock. One is called as mutual exclusion. Second one is hold and wait. Third one is no resource preemption. Fourth one is control wait. So all these things how to recover from the deadlock and how to avoid deadlock. Then what is that mutual exclusion? What is the semaphore? All these things we will study in the next class. Thank you for your cooperation. 1 minute.